Have you ever watched someone destroy your team's work, then stood back and counted the minutes while they burned their own career to the ground? I have. 14 minutes, to be exact. That's how long it took for our entire payment processing system to collapse after my boss deleted every backup, every failsafe, every line of code I'd written to protect us. He thought he was proving a point about agility over redundancy. Instead, he proved why some bridges should never be burned, especially when you're still standing on them. My name is Clara Vance, and for 7 years, I built digital fortresses. As Senior Data Reliability Engineer at Northpoint Dynamics, I didn't just maintain our payment processing infrastructure, I crafted it like a master watchmaker assembles movements, each component precisely calibrated to catch failures before they could cascade. Picture a city at night from 30,000 feet. Every light represents a safeguard, every grid line a redundancy protocol. That was my system. Multi-tiered data validation checks that ran like clockwork. Backup schedules staggered across 3 time zones. Failover protocols that could resurrect dead servers faster than you could refresh your browser. I called it the cathedral, not because I was religious, but because it was built to last centuries. The monitoring dashboards in my corner office told stories in real time. Green lights pulsing like steady heartbeats. Transaction validation. Check. Database replication. Check. Automated backups completing their silent vigil every 6 hours. Check. Each backup encrypted, versioned, and stored in 3 separate locations. Paranoid? Perhaps. But in 7 years, we'd never lost a single byte of customer data. Then Gareth Rowe arrived. He swept into Northpoint like a hurricane in an expensive suit, armed with an MBA from Wharton and a vocabulary poisoned by Silicon Valley disruption rhetoric. Our new chief operations officer came with a mandate to modernize and streamline. He spoke in TED Talk soundbites and treated decades of institutional knowledge like outdated software waiting to be uninstalled. Legacy systems are comfort zones, he announced during his first all-hands meeting, his voice echoing through our converted warehouse office space. And comfort zones are where innovation goes to die. I watched him from the back row, noting how his eyes never quite focused on anyone, always scanning for the next audience to conquer. He had that particular brand of confidence that comes from never having watched a critical system fail at 3 a.m., never having to explain to 10,000 merchants why their Friday transactions had vanished into the digital ether. Backups, he said during a department review 2 weeks later, pulling up my carefully documented disaster recovery protocols on the conference room screen, are just fear saved to folders. We're spending, he made a show of checking his tablet, $40,000 annually on redundant storage, $40,000 of paranoia. The junior engineers shifted uncomfortably. Marcus from database administration opened his mouth to speak, then thought better of it. I remained silent, fingers tracing the edge of my laptop, calculating. Speed wins markets, Gareth continued, minimizing my architecture diagrams with a casual swipe. Every backup checkpoint, every validation layer, they're speed bumps on the information superhighway. Our competitors are moving at light speed while we're still checking our mirrors. That night, I stayed late, not to work, to prepare. I created a personal backup of our entire system architecture, every configuration file, every custom script I'd written. Encrypted it with a key Gareth would never think to look for, hidden in a password manager he didn't know existed. Then I created another backup of the backup, stored on a physical drive I took home. Because here's what 20 years in tech had taught me. When someone says, move fast and break things, they never mention who has to clean up the broken pieces. And when someone dismisses safeguards as paranoia, they're usually about to prove exactly why those safeguards existed. I labeled the drive insurance and locked it in my apartment safe, next to my grandmother's jewelry and my passport. Then I went back to my desk and started documenting every system change, every dismissed warning, every ignored best practice. Gareth wanted to destroy my cathedral? Fine. But I'd make damn sure I had the blueprints when he needed someone to rebuild from the ashes. The dismantling began with surgical precision, each cut justified by metrics that told half-truths and PowerPoint slides that promised revolution. Cross-validation between customer tables and transaction logs? Gareth asked during a Tuesday morning optimization session, his laser pointer circling my carefully crafted data integrity checks like a vulture over carrion. That's 8 milliseconds per transaction. Multiply that by our daily volume. We're losing 2 hours of processing time every single day. 2 hours that prevented duplicate charges, phantom transactions, and the kind of data corruption that turned databases into digital graveyards. But I didn't say that. I'd learned by week 3 that Gareth heard objections as obstacles to overcome, not warnings to heed. Kill it, he ordered, turning to Jake, one of the junior developers he'd been grooming as his digital yes man. Comment it out for now. We'll revisit if there are issues. If, not when. If. The Friday stand-ups became performances in corporate theater. Gareth would pace the conference room, espresso in hand, rattling off optimization opportunities while the engineering team sat in silence, watching their life's work get labeled as technical debt. Why are we running integrity checks on archived data? He demanded, pulling up a process monitor showing my overnight validation routines. This data hasn't been touched in 6 months. It's like checking if your furniture moved while you were sleeping. Sarah from QA tried to explain. Those checks caught the index corruption last quarter that would have, could have, might have. Gareth interrupted, his voice taking on that patronizing tone reserved for explaining simple concepts to children. We can't run a business on hypotheticals. Delete the job. I documented it all in a private repository, time-stamped and tagged. November 3rd. 1432. Remove transaction validation middleware. November 8th. 0945. Disabled automatic index rebuilding. November 11th. 1620. Deleted cascade verification on payment processing. My official emails became carefully worded masterpieces of professional neutrality. Per our discussion, removing validation layer XY7. Please confirm this aligns with your optimization strategy. Each one BCC'd to my personal account, building a paper trail with the methodical patience of someone who'd seen this movie before. The breaking point came during a Thursday innovation sprint. Gareth had discovered our backup system, my pride and joy. The triple redundant safety net that had saved us through 2 data center fires and 1 memorable incident involving a junior developer and a badly placed delete statement. 6-hour incremental backups, daily fulls, weekly archives going back 5 years. He read from his audit, voice dripping with disdain. Do you know what Amazon charges for this much S3 storage? We're hemorrhaging money into Jeff Bezos' pocket for data nobody will ever need. The financial regulations require 90 days. He cut me off. Not 5 years, not triple redundancy, 90 days, single copy. Everything else is paranoia, monetized. He pulled up the backup configuration panel on the main screen, his cursor hovering over the scheduled jobs like a finger on a trigger. Who wrote these scripts? Every eye in the room turned to me. That would be me, I said, voice steady as a surgeon's hand. Of course it was. He smiled that shark smile, the one that preceded every public humiliation he'd orchestrated. Tell me, Clara, in your, 7 years, how many times have we needed to restore from a backup older than 30 days? Twice, I answered immediately. Once when the Thornton acquisition. Twice, in 7 years. He turned to the room like a prosecutor addressing a jury. We're spending $500,000 over 7 years for twice. That's $250,000 per incident. We could have rebuilt the entire system from scratch for less. He deleted the first backup job with theatrical flair. Then the second, the third. But keep the daily backup, he conceded, as if granting a magnificent favor. We're not cowboys. I watched my safety nets disappear, one by one, and made mental notes. That night, I ran one last full backup to my personal drive. Every table, every configuration, every line of code, compressed and encrypted with AES 256. The timestamp read November 15th, 23:47:33. I labeled it Before the Fall and wondered if I was being melodramatic. I wasn't. The email arrived at 4:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, buried between a shipping notification and a company newsletter about the holiday party. Subject line: System Access Adjustment, effective immediately. Your access level has been modified to read only. This optimization ensures streamlined decision-making and reduces configuration conflicts. For any system changes, please submit requests through your department head, no signature. Just Gareth's name auto-generated by the system, cold and impersonal as a termination notice. I sat back in my chair, feeling the leather creak under the shift of weight, and smiled. Not the smile of defeat, but the thin, sharp smile of someone who'd just been handed exactly what they expected. He'd finally shown his hand, and it was weaker than he knew. The next morning's team meeting was a masterclass in public humiliation disguised as progress. I've noticed some confusion about our new development pipeline, Gareth announced, pulling up a flowchart that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd read about software development in an airport business book. To eliminate bottlenecks, we're consolidating system modifications under a single point of authority. That point, of course, was him. Clara, he said, turning to me with that practiced concern that never reached his eyes. I know you've been our guardian angel for years, but guardian angels don't innovate. They prevent, and prevention is just another word for stagnation. Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside me. Sarah studied her coffee cup like it contained the secrets of the universe. Nobody met my eyes. Now, Gareth continued, pulling up the backup system interface on the main display. Let's talk about unnecessary redundancy. What followed was a systematic execution of every safety measure I'd built. He deleted the automated backup scripts with running commentary, each deletion accompanied by a business justification that would sound brilliant in a board meeting and insane in a server room at 2 a.m. Regression testing suite, we have user acceptance testing. Delete. Database transaction logs. The payment processor keeps their own records. Delete. Rollback procedures. We're moving forward, not backward. Delete. I documented everything in my notebook. Handwritten in pen. Old school, unhackable. Each timestamp, each deleted script name, each witness present. 12 people watched him gut our safety infrastructure. 12 people who said nothing. Any questions? Gareth asked when he was done, his tone suggesting that questions would be career-limiting decisions. I raised my hand. The room went silent. You could hear the HVAC system humming, the distant chatter from the sales floor, someone's phone vibrating against a desk 2 rooms over. Yes, Clara? I'd like to confirm, for the record, that you're removing all automated backup processes, all regression testing, and all rollback capabilities from our production payment system that handles. I made a show of checking my phone. $8.3 million in transactions daily. His jaw tightened. We're optimizing resource allocation. Of course, I said, writing in my notebook. And this decision is being made with full understanding of the risks involved. The only risk, he said, voice dropping to that dangerous register that preceded firings, is being too afraid to evolve. Some of us are stuck in 2017, Clara. The rest of us are building 2025. I nodded, closed my notebook, and leaned back. Understood. Thank you for clarifying. That night, I backed up everything one more time. Not just the data, the entire system state, every configuration file, every environment variable, every hidden dependency that Gareth didn't even know existed. I documented the exact version numbers, the specific server configurations, the precise network settings that made our house of cards stand. I stored it all on 3 separate encrypted drives, one in my apartment safe, one in a safety deposit box at a bank Gareth didn't know I used, one with my lawyer, sealed in an envelope marked open only upon specific instruction. Then I created a special backup, a snapshot taken at exactly 11:59 p.m. moments before Gareth's changes would take effect. I included the logs showing every deletion, every removed safeguard, every dismissed warning. The metadata alone told a story of willful negligence that would make any auditor weep. I named this file evidence tar gz and uploaded it to a private server in Switzerland, paid for with cryptocurrency through 3 proxy services. Because I wasn't just preparing for system failure anymore, I was preparing for war. And in war, the winner isn't who fires the first shot, it's who documents it. The timestamp on my final commit log read November 22nd, 23:59:59, 1 second before Gareth's New World Order began, 1 second before the countdown to disaster started ticking. The UI bug was laughably minor, dates displaying as MMDD instead of DDMM on the European dashboard. The kind of thing that normally would warrant a 2-line fix and a junior developer's afternoon. But for Gareth, it was opportunity wrapped in a crisis, a chance to play hero for the Berlin office executives visiting next week. "This is embarrassing," he announced during Friday's 4 p.m. meeting. The time slot he'd specifically chosen because half the senior staff would already be gone. "We look like amateurs who can't handle basic internationalization." Jake, his loyal lieutenant, nodded vigorously. "I can have a fix ready by Monday." "Monday?" Gareth's voice pitched with practiced incredulity. "The Germans are here Tuesday morning. We need this live tonight." I felt my stomach drop. Friday night production pushes were where stable systems went to die. "The testing environment has the fix ready," Jake offered, pulling up his screen. "It's been running clean for 3 hours. 3 hours. Not 3 days. Not 3 weeks. 3 hours of testing for code that would touch our production payment system." "Perfect," Gareth said. "Push it." "Wait," I interjected, knowing it was futile but needing it on record. "That branch has unmerged changes from the October refactor. The one we rolled back because you were paranoid about edge cases that never materialized." Gareth cut me off. "Jake, proceed." I pulled up the repository history on my laptop, my read-only access still allowing me to see the nightmare unfolding in real time. The branch Jake was about to deploy wasn't just old, it was contaminated. It contained experimental changes to the database connection pooling, modifications to the transaction ID generator, and worst of all, a half-finished alteration to how we handle decimal precision in currency calculations. "Gareth," I tried once more. "That branch touches the payment validation core. If you're going to push this, at least let me create a backup first." "With what access?" He smiled, that serpent smile that preceded every catastrophe. "Besides, we have the daily backup from this morning. That's 18 hours of data we could recover if your paranoid fantasies came true. 18 hours of Friday transactions. Black Friday was next week. The pre-sales had started. 18 hours might as well have been 18 years. I watched Jake's screen share as he initiated the deployment. The progress bar crept forward like a digital fuse burning toward dynamite. My fingers flew across my keyboard, documenting everything: the branch name, the commit hash, the exact timestamp of deployment, the list of modified files scrolling past like names on a memorial wall. At 6:47 p.m., the deployment completed. "See?" Gareth stood, buttoning his jacket. "No explosions, no disasters, just progress. Have a great weekend, everyone." The conference room emptied, leaving me alone with the ghostly glow of the deployment logs on the main screen. I stayed for another hour, watching the system metrics, looking for the first hairline cracks that would spiderweb into collapse. They started at 8:23 p.m., a small spike in database connection timeouts. Nothing that would trigger alarms. Gareth had disabled those as noise reduction. Then a gradual increase in transaction processing time, from 200 milliseconds to 300, then 400. Customer-facing systems would compensate for now. But the pressure was building. I opened my personal monitoring dashboard, the one I'd built on my own infrastructure, invisible to Gareth's optimizations. The pattern was clear as a cardiac arrest on an EKG. The connection pooling was failing to release resources. Every transaction was leaving behind a ghost, a phantom connection that would linger until the system choked on its own digital detritus. By 11 p.m., the memory usage had crept up 12%. By midnight, 18%. The system would survive the weekend, barely. But come Monday morning, when transaction volume spiked, when thousands of merchants logged in simultaneously, when the East Coast business day collided with European markets still active, I did one last thing before leaving the office. I created a complete system snapshot. Every byte of data, every configuration, every log file showing the system in its last stable state. I uploaded it to my Swiss server with a timestamp, November 24th, 23:59. 59, the last second before Saturday, the last moment before the timer on Gareth's bomb started its final countdown. The subject line of my encrypted email to myself read, T-minus 58 hours. Because I knew, with mathematical certainty, that Monday morning at 9:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, when our transaction volume hit its first peak, the system would crash, and I would be ready. Saturday morning arrived with deceptive calm. My personal monitoring dashboard painted a picture of slow degradation, like watching rust spread across iron in time-lapse. The errors started small, the kind that users dismiss with a refresh button and a muttered curse at their internet connection. At 10:14 a.m., Margaret from customer service posted in Slack, "Anyone else seeing duplicate order confirmations? 3 merchants reporting double charges that disappear after refresh?" Jake responded with a laughing emoji. Ghost in the machine, probably cache issues. Cache issues. I documented the timestamp and the dismissal, adding it to my growing timeline of failure, knowing that those ghosts were transaction records being created, corrupted, and partially rolled back, leaving behind data fragments like shrapnel in the database. By Saturday afternoon, the symptoms multiplied like cancer cells. Postal codes were randomly truncating. 90210 became 9021, causing address validations to fail. Transaction timestamps started drifting, some showing EST, others PST, some appearing to originate from UTC Pleasant 14, a time zone that would place them somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Gareth finally appeared on Slack at 4 p.m., probably from his golf course, seeing some minor display issues. Nothing critical. Jake, can you clear the cache pools? Clearing cache pools on a system with corrupted connection pooling was like treating a severed artery with a Band-Aid. But Jake dutifully logged in and executed the command. For about 12 minutes, the errors subsided. Then they returned with compound interest. Sunday was when the real artist revealed its work. Customer names started displaying with incorrect character encodings. Jose became Jose. München transformed into Mo 1 The European dashboard, the one Gareth had been so eager to fix, now showed dates not just in the wrong format, but from the wrong century. Orders placed on November 26, 2024, displayed as November 26, 1924. Sarah from QA broke the weekend silence rule and called me directly. "Clara, I know you can't access the system, but what are we looking at here?" "Check the connection pool metrics," I told her, careful to keep my voice neutral. "And look at the decimal precision in the currency calculations." I can't. Gareth removed our access to those logs, said it was a security optimization. Of course he had. I spent Sunday evening creating my final documentation. I called it The Anatomy of a Preventable Disaster. Each error meticulously cataloged, cross-referenced with the specific safeguard that would have prevented it, annotated with the exact date and time Gareth had removed that safeguard. Page 1. Duplicate transactions caused by removed validation middleware. Deleted November 3, 1432. Page 7. Character encoding errors from disabled UTF-8 verification. Removed November 8, 0945. Page 15. Timestamp drift due to deleted time zone synchronization. Eliminated November 11th. 16:20. By 11 p.m. Sunday night, my personal monitoring system showed the database connection pool at 87% saturation. The transaction processing queue had grown from its normal 100-200 pending operations to over 8,000 steers. The system was drowning in its own backlog, each new transaction adding weight to a ship already taking on water. Gareth posted one last message on Slack at 11:47 p.m. Team, seeing some performance degradation. Nothing major. But let's all be online early tomorrow for a quick sync. 8 a.m. sharp. I smiled at my screen. A cold, calculating smile. 8 a.m. The East Coast markets opened at 9:30. European markets would already be in full swing. At current degradation rates, the system would reach critical failure between 9:45 and 10 a.m. I set 3 alarms for 5 a.m. and laid out my most professional outfit, the charcoal suit I'd worn to my interview 7 years ago. If you're going to watch someone's career implode, you should dress for the occasion. My phone buzzed with one last automated alert from my monitoring system. Critical, database connection pool at 91%. Estimated time to total saturation, 10 hours, 12 minutes. I turned off my phone, knowing I'd need the battery full for tomorrow's recording. Because while Gareth thought Monday would be his day to play hero and fix the unexpected issues, I knew better. Monday would be the day he learned that when you demolish safety nets, you better be absolutely certain you can fly. And Gareth Rowe was about to discover he couldn't even glide. Monday, November 27th, 9:33 a.m. The war room was already at DEFCON 2 when I walked in, coffee in hand, expression carefully neutral. Showing completely different totals than the merchant dashboard, Marcus was saying, sweat beading on his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. We've got restaurants in Manhattan showing negative sales. Negative? Gareth's voice cracked slightly. He'd lost the polished executive veneer, his shirt already showing stress wrinkles at 9:34 a.m. The decimal precision corruption, Sarah muttered. Then louder. The currency calculations are dropping digits. I won $250. 000 transaction is being recorded as $12.50 in some tables. $125,000 in others. 9:37 a.m. Jake's screen showed connection pool saturation at 94%. His typing had taken on a frantic quality, commands failing faster than he could execute them. Why aren't the backups running? Someone asked from the back. The room went silent. 9:38 a.m. Gareth's face cycled through emotions like a broken traffic light, confusion, realization, panic, then forced calm. We have the daily backup from Friday morning. Friday morning. Marcus stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. That's 72 hours of data. Black Friday weekend data. We processed 18 million in transactions. 9:41 a.m. The first complete system failure. Not a slowdown, not an error, a full stop. The payment processing dashboard went from yellow to red to black, just black. Get it back online, Gareth commanded, his executive presence crumbling like wet cardboard. I can't. Jake's voice was barely a whisper. The connection pool is locked, every query is timing out, the transaction table is showing. Jesus Christ, it's showing 384,000 pending operations. 9:43 a.m. My phone vibrated. The CEO, Patricia Winters, had joined the emergency Slack channel. Her message was simple. Status? Gareth typed and deleted 4 different responses. His hands were shaking. 9:44 a.m. The customer service phone system lit up like a Christmas tree. Every line, every queue, every overflow backup ringing simultaneously. The sound leaked through the walls, a distant electronic scream of 10,000 merchants discovering their Monday morning transactions had vanished into digital limbo. 9:45 a.m. We need to restore from backup, Jake announced, stating the obvious like it was revelation. Do it, Gareth ordered. Jake's fingers flew across his keyboard, then stopped. His face went pale. The backup system. It's not there. What do you mean it's not there? The scripts, the automated backups, the restoration procedures, they're all deleted. 9:46 a.m. Every eye in the room turned to Gareth. The silence was so complete you could hear the fluorescent lights humming their electronic funeral dirge. You deleted them, Sarah said, not a question but a statement of fact. You deleted them all in front of us. Thursday, November 16th, 2:30 p.m., Conference Room B. 9:47 a.m., 14 minutes since the markets opened, 14 minutes for our entire payment infrastructure to go from minor performance degradation to complete annihilation. Patricia Winters entered the room in person, her presence commanding despite her 5'2" frame. Someone explained to me why I have the Federal Reserve Bank of New York calling about transaction anomalies. Gareth opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound emerged. The system is experiencing, Jake started. The system is dead. Patricia cut him off. I want to know why and I want to know how we fix it. Now. 9:48 a.m. I took a sip of my coffee, maintaining my silence, watching Gareth's career flatline in real time. His eyes darted around the room, looking for someone to blame, someone to throw under the bus he'd so carefully constructed. His gaze landed on me. Clara, he said, voice desperate. You built this system. You must have. I have read-only access, I reminded him, my voice calm as a morgue. Per your optimization initiative of November 22nd. Patricia's head snapped toward Gareth. You removed the system architect's access during a critical update period? The room held its breath. Gareth's mouth moved soundlessly, a fish drowning in air. 9:49 a.m. The collapse was complete. Not just the system, Gareth's entire carefully constructed facade had crumbled in exactly 14 minutes. Every decision, every deleted safeguard, every dismissed warning had led to this moment. Patricia pulled out her phone. I need the board on an emergency call, now. As she stepped out to make the call, the room remained frozen, a tableau of digital disaster. Gareth stared at his laptop screen as if willing it to provide salvation. I finished my coffee and set down the empty cup with a gentle click that echoed like a judge's gavel. 14 minutes. That's all it took. And we were just getting started. Patricia Winters returned to the war room at 10:03 a.m., her face carved from granite. Behind her, 3 board members joined via video conference on the main screen, their expressions suggesting someone would be updating their resume by lunch. I need solutions, not explanations, Patricia announced. Who can fix this? The room remained silent. Jake stared at his screen. Marcus studied his shoes. Sarah opened her mouth, then closed it. The backups. Patricia continued. Where are our backups? Gareth's voice came out strangled. We streamlined the backup system for efficiency. Define streamlined. We reduced redundancy to optimize costs. Stop. Patricia's voice could have frozen helium. I want specifics. Show me the logs. I pulled out my notebook, the handwritten one. May I? Every head turned to me. I documented the backup system deletion, I said, flipping to the tagged page. November 16th, 2:30 p.m. Present were Marcus Chen, Sarah Martinez, Jake Thompson, and 8 others. Mr. Mars. Rowe deleted our automated backup systems, regression testing suite, and rollback procedures. He stated, and I quote, We're moving forward, not backward. I slid the notebook across the table to Patricia. She read it, her expression never changing. Is this accurate? She asked the room. 12 heads nodded in unison. Clara. Patricia turned to me. Can you fix this? I don't have system access, I reminded her. That can be remedied. Can you fix this? I let the silence stretch for exactly 3 seconds. I maintained personal documentation of our system architecture, and I created a complete backup before Mr. Rowe's optimizations took effect. The room erupted. Gareth shot to his feet. You can't. That's company property. That's industrial. That's foresight. Patricia cut him off. Where is this backup? Secure and encrypted, I said. Offline storage, maintained according to our original disaster recovery protocols. The ones I deleted, Gareth said, the words falling like stones. The ones you deleted, I confirmed. Patricia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression darkened further. The Federal Reserve is threatening to suspend our transaction licensing. The European Banking Authority wants an emergency audit. We have approximately 1 hour before this becomes a regulatory nightmare that ends North Point Dynamics. She turned back to me. Your terms? I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times, but my voice remained steady, professional. First, immediate restoration of my full system access, senior architect level, not just admin. Second, formal acknowledgement of my role in the recovery, documented and sent to all stakeholders. Third, Mr. Rowe is to have zero involvement in the restoration process and no further contact with the engineering team. That's extortion, Gareth sputtered. That's negotiation, I corrected. Fourth, my consulting rate for emergency disaster recovery is $1,500 per hour, with a minimum 8-hour engagement, paid in advance. Patricia didn't hesitate. Done. I'm also filing a hostile work environment complaint, Gareth announced, desperate now. She deliberately sabotaged. You deleted our backups. Patricia's voice was sub-zero. You removed our senior architect's access. You pushed untested code to production on a Friday night. You ignored dozens of warnings. Clara, on the other hand, did exactly what any competent engineer would do. She protected our infrastructure from catastrophic failure caused by management negligence. She turned to me. How long to restore? 45 minutes to baseline functionality, 2 hours for complete restoration, 4 hours for full validation and stability confirmation. Do it. I stood, pulled out my phone, and navigated to my encrypted cloud storage. I'll need a clean terminal with root access and someone to validate my commands for audit purposes. Sarah immediately volunteered. I'll witness and document everything. As I sat down at the primary workstation, Gareth made one last attempt. The board should know she's been planning this. This is corporate sabotage. The only sabotage, Patricia said, her voice final as a funeral, was yours, security. Please escort Mr. Rowe to his office. He has 15 minutes to collect his personal items. 10:47 M. As Gareth was led out, his face the color of spoiled milk, I began typing the commands that would resurrect our digital cathedral from its ashes. First, I announced to the room, we restore the backup from November 24th, 23:59:59. My fingers flew across the keyboard, each command a note in a symphony of restoration. Behind me, the team watched in silence as their world began to rebuild itself, line by line, table by table. Justice, served at exactly $1,500 per hour. The restoration unfolded like a time-lapse video in reverse. Death becoming life, chaos returning to order. My fingers moved across the keyboard with the precision of a concert pianist, each command executed with 7 years of muscle memory. Establishing secure connection to backup repository, I announced, my voice cutting through the tense silence. Sarah documented every keystroke while the rest of the team watched the main screen like witnesses to a resurrection. 10:52 a.m. Backup integrity verified, hash matches, beginning database restoration. The progress bar crept forward, not the reckless speed Gareth had worshipped, but the steady, measured pace of competence. Tables rebuilt themselves, indexes reorganized. Transaction logs rolled back to the moment before disaster struck. 11:18 a.m. Primary database restored, initiating connection pool reset with proper parameters. Jake watched with something approaching awe as I rebuilt the very safeguards Gareth had forced him to destroy. Each validation layer, each redundancy protocol, each safety net carefully reconstructed from my personal blueprints. 11:47 a.m. System functionality at 85%, bringing payment processing online. The dashboard flickered from black to red to yellow, then finally, beautifully, to green. Transactions began flowing again, not the corrupted fragments of Gareth's nightmare, but clean, validated, properly formatted data. Marcus actually applauded. Others joined in, a scattered celebration of competence over ego. 12:32 p.m. Full restoration complete, all systems operational. Running validation suite. Patricia had been standing behind me for the last hour, silent as a statue. Now she spoke. The Federal Reserve has confirmed they're seeing normal transaction flow. The European Banking Authority is satisfied with our response time. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Clara, effective immediately. You're promoted to Chief Technology Architect. The board has already approved. Your first task is to implement whatever safeguards you deem necessary to prevent this from ever happening again. I nodded, still typing. I'll need to rebuild the entire backup infrastructure, triple redundancy minimum, geographic distribution, immutable snapshots every 4 hours. Whatever you need. 1:15 p.m. The final validation completed. Every transaction accounted for. Every merchant made whole. Every dollar precisely where it should be. The system hummed with the quiet efficiency of perfect engineering. I pushed back from the keyboard and stood, my legs stiff from 3 hours of absolute focus. The war room erupted in exhausted cheers. Sarah hugged me. Marcus shook my hand so vigorously I thought he might dislocate my shoulder. Through the glass wall, I could see Gareth's empty office. His nameplate had already been removed, his executive parking spot already reassigned, his entire legacy erased as thoroughly as he'd tried to erase our backups. Patricia pulled me aside. The board wants a full postmortem, every decision, every deletion, every warning ignored. I have everything documented, I assured her. Timestamps, witnesses, even screenshots of his Slack messages calling backups paranoia monetized. She smiled, the first time I'd seen her smile in 2 years. He's already threatening to sue for wrongful termination. Good luck with that, I said, pulling out my phone to show her one particular screenshot. This is him explicitly ordering the deletion of critical infrastructure after being warned of the consequences. In writing, with 12 witnesses. You really did plan for everything? No, I corrected. I just remembered the first rule of engineering. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and always keep your own backups. As the team began the slow process of returning to normal operations, I walked back to my desk, my original desk, not the executive office they'd offered. I didn't need the corner view or the leather chairs. I needed proximity to my servers, my systems, my digital cathedral that had survived its trial by fire. My phone buzzed with a transfer confirmation, $12,000 for 8 hours of emergency consulting. Below it, another notification, a message from Gareth, probably sent from his car in the parking lot. You planned this. You wanted me to fail. I typed back, I didn't plan anything. I just refused to let you take everyone else down with you. But yes, I did count the minutes. 14 of them, to be exact. I blocked his number and deleted the conversation. Some backups, after all, aren't worth keeping. The late afternoon sun painted long shadows across the server room as I began documenting our new disaster recovery protocols. Page 1, line 1. No single person should ever have the power to delete critical infrastructure without oversight. I titled the document the 14-Minute Protocol, a guide to preventing executive-induced system collapse. And at the very bottom of the signature page, in small print that legal would probably make me remove, I added, dedicated to all the engineers who were told they were paranoid until they weren't. The cursor blinked at me, waiting for the next word. I smiled and kept typing. After all, I had a cathedral to rebuild. And this time, no one would be allowed to delete the blueprints. Thank you for listening to this story of digital justice and corporate karma. Where are you listening from today? Drop a comment below and let's connect. I'd love to hear if you've ever witnessed similar workplace disasters. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more revenge stories from the corporate trenches, and share your thoughts about Clara's 14-minute triumph. What would you have done in her position?